Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in to this discussion. Tonight's discussion is we're devoting our time and our focus and our love to the 1970s Godzilla films. And yes, I'm not alone. I have some great 1970 Godzilla films enthusiasts and collectors. And you know how we do things around here. Let's go from top to bottom. First and foremost, mykaijus.com. My great friend, John Ruffin. How you doing, John?
Great. Thanks, Leslie, for having me.
Not a problem. Next, yes, you saw him on the last live stream. Yes. And I had to have him back here. Of course, William Fett from the Godzilla Files here on YouTube. Welcome back, William. How you doing, my man?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about these 70s films. It's going to be a good time.
And last but not least, you can't see his ugly face, but he's still here. Of course, Jeremy Souls from Summit Kaiju, the brainchild behind Summit Kaiju. How you doing, Jeremy?
Doing pretty good. Thank you, Leslie.
No problem. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in right now. I want to make this perfectly clear, ladies and gentlemen, moving forward, especially if you're X Plus collectors. And I don't want to go into a lot of detail with this topic I'm about to discuss right now. But of course, Jeremy made an announcement yesterday. If you know the announcement, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I want to make it real clear. We're not going to discuss that in this live stream. So please, if you have any questions involving Jeremy and what he posted yesterday on Facebook, please, let's not do that here. You know what I mean? He's not ready to talk about it right now. So let's respect his wishes. And so I wanted just to keep that. I wanted to make that really clear. You know what I mean? But other than that, this is nothing but the 1970s Godzilla films and collectibles discussion. Of course, myself, John, Jeremy, and William, and hopefully we'll be joined by Samson West real soon. We're really devoted fans to the 1970s Godzilla films and collectibles. And before we go any further, I think it's best to set the stage, at least provide a little bit of perspective in motion here. Waiting for Samson West. He just popped up. So, matter of fact, if he's here. Samson?
Is it working?
Nope. I guess not. Oh.
Here he comes.
Well, there he is.
Oh, there I am.
Samson West, there he is.
Hopefully this will work. My phone said that it's experimental, this StreamYard thing through mobile. So
yeah,
hopefully I'll stay logged on like the whole time. But this is cool. What I did with my phone, I actually
you raise your volume on your mic.
Sorry.
Okay. Is it possible to raise the volume on your mic so we can hear it? Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it possible to raise the volume up so we can hear you a little bit more? Otherwise, you may have to talk a little bit louder.
Let's see. Hopefully this works. Like I said,
yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
working.
it.
Phone, so it's using my phone as a microphone. It's not the best mic on earth, but I guess I'll just yell like I normally do whenever I'm Samson West.
Right back.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our last participant. Of course, you know him, Samson West. Really the guy that really pioneered this whole Godzilla X Plus YouTube thing. I make no bones about the fact that really, because of you really paved the way for a lot of us fans. I think even Richard Iso, Mr. Fresh Vinyl, has pointed to you as his inspiration for making videos. So you were like, for being a part of this stream. I really do appreciate it.
Well, it's a great honor to be here. I'm glad you invited me, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yes. So I wanted to put things into perspective before we go into the discussion. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to the 1970s Godzilla films, we almost didn't get that because they wanted to really end the series with Destroy All Monsters, and as much as we love the 60s Godzilla films, you know, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Monster Zero, Sea Monster, Son of Godzilla, even though they're fun films and they're awesome, entertaining films, they really were on the downhill slide when it comes to box office performance. And with the advent of television, you know, in the mid 60s, you know, with Ultra Q and Ultra Man, it really wasn't doing the Japanese film industry a whole lot of favors. Because honestly, there was no point, at least back then, for the Japanese people, or just people in general. There was no point of going to the movies, paying to watch these type of movies when you can sit at home to see something similar for free. So because of that, the Godzilla film industry, at least attendance for these films, started going downhill, and they were originally going to end it with Destroy All Monsters. But after Destroy All Monsters was a success, they decided, you know what, there's still life in this character. We still have some mileage in this character. So they came forth with Godzilla's Revenge, not exactly the best film in the franchise. But they
fun film.
Yeah. But they set out for a year in 1970, and they came back with Godzilla in 1971, and it started like this resurgence of new films and new characters and more awesome, outlandish monsters, you know. And I make no bones about the fact that the 1970s films are my favorite era of films. Nothing against the 60s, nothing against the Heisei, the Millennium. But these films are just so fun for me that I can just pop them in at any given point and have a good time with them. So I guess before we go into the individual films, I guess let's just talk about, you know, our initial thoughts on the 70s. Like, how do we feel about them going in every single film in the franchise? And then we'll talk about our top 2 favorite collectibles that we have from those films, and we'll talk about one particular collectible that we don't have yet that we want to see, that maybe that we know it's coming, that we hope will come at some point. And throughout the discussion, I will pose some trivia questions to the audience to make it more interactive, you know, more so than we've done in the past. So how we're going to do this, we're going to go from John to William to Samson and then to Jeremy, and I'll provide my input at the very end. So John, the floor is yours, sir.
Great. Let me thank you again for having me with you guys. It was in the mid 70s, I'll say 75, particularly 76 with the bicentennial, that I started really seeing Godzilla films. Maybe the earliest Godzilla movie that I saw was Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, and Monster Zero. I would, as it got closer to the late 70s, you know, I would go to the TV Guide, you know, weekly to find out what Godzilla movie was going to come on, you know, on Creature Double Feature or whatever was going to be on Saturday afternoon. And, you know, one memory I had of coming into the 70 films, I had heard about Godzilla versus Megalon. And I just heard the titles and what is this? Because I had seen Monster Zero, you know, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, you know, even 54, you know, I'd seen them, but had never seen this Godzilla versus Megalon. And I was just dying to see it. And they said it was coming on, and it ended up some gargoyle movie. And I was like, I was about 20 minutes in. I was like, this is not right. And so it would take years of a year or two later before I would see it. But it was in this late 70s and early 80s when 78, I was at camp. We would go to camp every summer, and I found out that Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla was coming on, and I had never seen it. And I had taken sick at camp, so I got to go home early on Friday, knowing that Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla was coming on Saturday afternoon. Boy, that's one of my fondest memories that I'll ever had. So those films just took Godzilla for me in a place he had not been. Unlike the 60 films, you know, he's at his best, I think, as a friend and ally of the Earth. So those 70 films I'm tied to them in the late 70s, but those memories are my most fondest.
All right. We got also great YouTuber in the chat, Diego Doom. What's up, Diego Doom? What's going on with you, man? Man, you need to come up to Raleigh so we can do something, man. You know, we got to collab on something. Cause I know you're in North Carolina and I'm in North Carolina. We can do something. So, thanks for tuning in, Diego. Doom, really appreciate it. All right, William, you're up next.
So the 70s. You know, I think that's probably where I started watching the Godzilla films. That 70s era of Godzilla films. You know, when I was starting out with them, I remember having, you know, Godzilla versus Megalon was always on TV. I mean, well, maybe not everyone's favorite, but for some reason, it's one of the most popular ones to be shown on television. You know, every weekend I remember seeing it. Even my dad recorded it on a VHS tape for me. And, you know, I kind of explored a little bit more. Terror of Mechagodzilla is another one. And Godzilla versus Gigan was a film that I was always renting from the local Blockbuster. So my first real batch of films were the 70s. And, you know, obviously, as you kind of go through them, there are some ups and downs. And, you know, as we all probably are aware now of things like stock footage and all that kind of stuff. But when you're a kid, you don't know any of that stuff. You can't pinpoint that, you know, that footage was used from an earlier Godzilla movie. And they're all still really enjoyable if you look at them that way, in my opinion. They are a fun set of films to watch. I know the golden era is always, you know, that 60s, you know, that's everyone's favorite. And I can completely agree because Mothra versus Godzilla is my favorite Showa movie.
Yes!
But there are some really good things about the 70s. I think sometimes people kind of just don't even want to talk about them, but there's actually some really good things there. So that's why I'm really excited about talking about all of them today, because there's just a lot there that I really enjoyed.
All right, Samson, you're up. You're up next. So what's your initial thoughts, overall thoughts of the 70s films?
Now, the 1970s movies, to me, they're nostalgic because that's how I got started with the franchise. My very first movie was, even though I got this Godzilla versus Hedra set up in front of me here, my first movie was, in fact, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Or it was a VHS copy called Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster. And so that was my first film, and then I got the VHS double pack of Godzilla versus Megalon / Godzilla King of the Monsters, the American version with Raymond Burr. So yet again, another 70s film that got me started with the franchise. And then I remember vividly going to the video store and renting Godzilla versus Gigan, and just I would go back and I'd rent that one over and over and over again because even though it's kind of a stock footagey movie with like the army scenes and stuff like that, that film is just my favorite in the franchise. Gigan's my favorite enemy. The suit is my favorite suit, even though it's the worn out 68 suit. I just love that it's Haru Nakajima's final hurrah as the King of the Monsters. It's his final performance, and just the 70s films all around. They're kooky and fun. They're different. The stories are they're not so serious like the 60s ones. Like the 60s ones, yes, even though it's sci-fi and it's crazy and it's ridiculous, they're a little bit more serious in tone. But in the 70s ones, it's more kooky and fun. I mean, come on, you got these alien cockroaches that they're all about peace, and they're building a children's land, and that's how they're going to take over the world. And Godzilla versus Megalon is like, oh, we have a really heavily technological Seatopia, but we don't know how to build a robot. So let's go take with this bachelor with this kid that for some reason hangs out with these two bachelors, and then we're gonna steal his robot and make him control our giant rhinoceros beetle to take over Tokyo. So just the 70s films are all around fun. Like you said in the beginning, you can just pop them in anytime you want and just enjoy it. I'm the same way. I just love I actually have all of them with me. I'm at my sister's house using her internet for the weekend, and I brought all 70s films with me because I decided, you know what, I know I'm going to pop them in at some point while I'm here. I have to. I can't go a week without Godzilla viewing. So the 70s films, they're so much fun. I love them. I pop them in and watch them more than anything else.
Yeah.
Henry, you're up next.
I think 70s movies were groovy, man. my favorite out of all of them will have to be Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and that is because I love the show of Mechagodzilla design, and I also love King Caesar, which usually you don't hear a lot of people say, but I have a weird fascination with that particular kaiju, and I really wish that he would return to the MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I love the 70s films. Y'all know this, so I won't go into a lot of detail here. My favorite era of films, even though my favorite film is Mothra vs. Godzilla, like William.
Yeah.
But I have to say, as far as like a cohesive band of movies, every film is awesome. Kind of like the Gamera trilogy, where they all are great films and they got them. The 70s films, they're nothing but fun. And of course, my first that got me hooked as a Godzilla fan is Godzilla vs. Megalon. So I don't care what anybody says. I will never bash that film. That film will always be, you know, it's not the greatest. Don't get me wrong. It's not the greatest Godzilla film, but I've heard it said, people say that it's the worst, but we'll get to that, you know, once we get to Megalon. But like I said, I can't bring myself to hate that film because that's what started me as a fan. Of course, we all come into this situation differently. But for the longest time, as I watched these movies, the 70s films have always stuck with me. And it's just amazing that, you know, when you look at the 60s films and what they did in the 60s, now we have Frankenstein Conquers the World, King Kong Escapes, War of the Gargantuas, even Gappa, Yonggary, Damagen. You know, you had all these great characters aside from Godzilla and Gamera and Ultraman that making anything in comparison to them was already a tall task to do. But I think now the 70s films may not be able to top the 60s, but I think they provide a great alternative. You know, they weren't really like carbon copies of the 60s, maybe storyline wise, yeah. But when you look at monsters from the 60s like King Ghidorah, Ebera, Kamunga, then you have the 70s films, Hedra, Mechagodzilla, Megalon. You know, you got to applaud Toho for doing something different. And what impresses me the most about the 70s films, the fact that, of course, the budgets for these films were they were not the best, so they had to, you know, make the best out of what they had, and that of course meant stock footage. That of course meant stock music, you know. But I applaud Toho for doing what they did. You know, they were able to make great fun films. Of course, they had to cut corners because of the budgets, but I think considering what was up against them, they did a phenomenal job. They really did, and that's how I feel about the 70s films as a whole. Now, before we get into Hedra, like I said, I do have some questions I want to pose towards the audience, you know, just to try to make it more interactive. Of course, I'm sure that my co-host will probably know these answers to these questions, but still, this is just for people in the comment section. So anybody that's here in the comment section or in the chat, you can just post the answer, you know, whatever, and whoever gets it first, I will shout you out. And of course, the first question is probably not a hard one, but you know, whatever. So, since we're about to go into Godzilla vs. Hedra, what character named Hedra? Which person on the cast? You ain't got to say the actor's name, but say the name of the character. Excuse me. What character named Hedra? Who's the character named Hedra? So while we're waiting for the person to pipe that in, we're going to go into our thoughts of on Hedra. So of course we'll go with John, then we'll go with, you know, William, then Samson, then Jeremy. So what is your overall thoughts of Godzilla vs. Hedra, and what is your top 2 collectibles pertaining to Godzilla vs. Hedra?
Wow. I thought Hedra was fantastic. I loved seeing Hedra on Godzilla vs. Hedra or Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster on Saturdays growing up. I mean, I always looked forward to it because I knew Godzilla was going to win. I knew it was, you know, I enjoyed the music, you know, the opening track all the way around. I mean, I enjoyed the film, even though it was quite different than all the others. I think it's a unique kaiju, you know, and I could identify with one of the, you know, the some of the main characters. Favorite collectible? Wow, I have to say probably the Twitter X Plus Hedra, the final stage, but also love the landing, and I mean that whole series they have going is beautiful.
All right, William, you up next.
Oh, so Godzilla versus Hedorah, or Hedorah, or however else these titles go. You know, this was probably one of the last Godzilla movies I was able to get my hands on. I saw it very late in my Godzilla fandom. You know, it wasn't overly available when I was younger, so it really, when it came out on DVD for the first time, I think by Sony, was the first time I got to see it. And it's unique. It's definitely probably one of the most unique Godzilla films in the whole entire series. I don't think there's anything like it. You know, Hedorah himself is probably another crazy monster. You know, he's just sludge, and you know, he doesn't fit anything into the normal sense of what we expect our kaiju to be. You know, yep. I mean, he's just a real. I personally find him really cool. It's unfortunate that there were no sequels with Hedorah in it, or, you know, besides Final Wars. I know he's in there, but I don't really count that. It's like more of like a cameo, but like an actual movie about Hedorah again would be pretty interesting. But it's a fun movie overall. I think dark, definitely probably the darkest in the 70s film, because that's the first time we get to see people actually being killed by a kaiju, which you didn't really see in the 60s. And that's one of the things, like, I know a lot of people say the 70s are more kid friendly, but in the same time, there's blood, there's death. Like it's a very dark time for Godzilla films, and this is probably the darkest. So as far as my two favorite collectible items for Godzilla vs. Hedorah, I'm gonna have to agree with John. The 25 centimeter, to me, is probably the best Hedorah X Plus figure. This final form here, it's truly stunning, and I don't always say it, but I think this one actually does top the 30 in a couple of different ways. But to me, this is
agree.
Great. And my last one is this little guy. So for every X Plus figure I get like a small little chibi figure for my girlfriend. So this is probably my second favorite one.
All right. And going to the chat for the question. Yes. Sentinel, you were the first one to really make mention of it. Yes, it was the kid. But George McMullen, you're absolutely right. And Phil the Kaiju King. Yes, y'all are right. The kid's name is Ken. Yes, a Kenny. Kenny named Hedorah. Yes, he did.
Yeah. I don't want to give him away.
Yeah, Ken. Yeah, Ken. But I'll talk about that when it's my turn to talk. But Samson, go ahead. You're next.
So Godzilla vs. Hedorah. We're all pretty much saying the same thing. It's got to be one of the most unique movies in the franchise, and pretty much the main reason why is because it was the first time that a Godzilla film was not directed by Ishiro Honda or Jun Fukuda, however you pronounce the name. And sorry, I feel Yoshimatsu, is that the what was his first name?
Yoshimitsu Banno directed Hedorah.
That's right. So I think that's why they took it in like a completely different direction. And the movie had like, you know, those little like cartoon sequences with where like every time Hedorah changed into a different monster, you showed him like, you know, turning into that different form and kind of doing something different, like a little cartoon, like 10-second little thing. And that was different. We'd never seen anything like that. So that was kind of cool and interesting. I will admit, out of all the 70s films, it's my least favorite. I don't know why. I think the movie kind of has a little bit of a slower pace to it than most Godzilla films, in my opinion, at least. I'm not bashing the movie. I mean, obviously, I love the monster because boom, look what I got right here. And so the creature itself, it's very interesting. Definitely a very 70s feel because it's all about environmentalism with Godzilla versus the pollution monster. I mean, yeah. And them having the Million Man March on the volcano, which or Mount Fuji, and like 50 people showed up. So yeah, like the hippie dance, like the acid tripping thing that dude did, or I don't know what was going on with him seeing the fish people. If he was tripping, if he was drunk, I mean, that was weird. I didn't know what to make of that, but it was a little bit like one scene that I always kind of was like, oh, was that scene with the cat when it's covered in sludge, and I was kind of curious, what was the significance of that? Why did the cat not die? While everybody else, like humans and everything, why did they die? What was the difference between the cat and humans? I didn't know if that was it's supposed to be significant, but the movie itself, I still enjoy it for what it is because it's the first time we're getting a movie since Godzilla's Revenge, and they decided to continue the franchise instead of killing it. So thank God for that. And yeah, all right. So favorite figures out of the line. That's kind of hard to say for two because I have so many right here. If I could say one is just the Para Babies collection, the entire little collection of the Para Baby line, because it goes from the little tadpole, the little okay, so it was the little tadpole and the tray to the actual monster that swam up and attacked Ken's dad, Papa, and then the flying form, the whole setup is great, and then the Power Baby line is great in particular. But I'm going to go with what you guys said also. The 25 centimeter Hedra is probably the greatest out of the Hedras because they added a different paint scheme to it. It actually has glitter coated on it to give him that shiny look that he had in the movie. Because he was always if light shined on him, he was always twinkling constantly. And I went Rick, so I got the little eye patch there. And he comes with different sets of arms, so I got one up and one down, just kind of give him a little different dynamic pose. And I don't have the battery pack, but it does do the lights light up or pulsate. So, I mean, this is an all-around great sculpt, great feature for it to light up, and the Rick pieces to it are just got to have it.
All right, Jeremy, you're up next.
Yeah, so I'd have to say I love Godzilla versus Hedra, which I knew it as a kid as Godzilla versus the Smog Monster on VHS, just for its absolute weirdness. To me, it was one of those things that stuck out to me the most for how uniquely different it was. And to Samson's point about the fish head people, I remember that kind of freaked me out as a kid. But then later on down the line, years later, I saw Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And I wonder if they had took that scene from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas from the book. Because he goes into this bar and people turn into lizard people. So I'm kind of wondering if there's some correlation there with that. I think the important thing that always kind of sticks out to me in my mind for Godzilla versus Hedra is the message that it tries to convey. And I think in this day and age, just seeing the I guess shape of the planet in some places like China, for example, it holds very true to the message and the warning that it tries to portray. And I would have to say, out of my favorite collectibles, it's really a toss-up between the X Plus 25 centimeter and the Clear Guts Hedra. I can't remember what brand it is. I think it might be CCP or Marmot. I can't remember, but the Clear Guts is really awesome. So it's kind of a toss-up between the two. But yeah, I have three. By the way, I have 3 rows dedicated to God's Election. I think the sludge multiplies. Once you get hooked, you can't get out of it. It just keeps coming.
I'd like to add the cast figurines from Godzilla vs. Hedra. They're really nice as well.
Well, it's my turn, and let me just say I made no bones about the fact that I've said this numerous times. I find Godzilla vs. Hedra as probably the most underrated Godzilla film. I think because of its trippy and just weird nature, that some people will quickly dismiss it because it is so bizarre. But you look at a monster like Hedra, and of course, like William said, you know, there were plans to make, you know, he wondered why they didn't make any sequels, but there were plans for a sequel. And it kind of makes you wonder what would have happened if, you know, Shiro Honda would have directed a Hedra film. Mm-hmm. But I think that because Hedra is such a weird monster, it took a film to be bizarre, to be built around it, for it to be the way it is. Like, it's kind of hard to take something like this really, really seriously, like in a conventional Godzilla film. But they did such a great job of portraying this monster as such a hellacious threat, not to just Japan, but to Godzilla himself and to the whole world. You know, that even Godzilla had trouble beating this guy. And I made this point known many times before. The first time I watched this film, that moment when Godzilla is thrown into a crater by Hedra, and Hedra starts to drown Godzilla in that liquid sludge, I actually cut the movie off because I didn't want to see Godzilla lose, because everything Godzilla done up until that point didn't work. And everything it's funny when they first come across each other in Tokyo, and when Godzilla first blows fire on Hedra for the first time, Hedra just looks at him, and the sparks fall all around him. He just looks at Godzilla, and Godzilla just does this, like, oh my damn. It was like really an eye-opening move and moment for me, because even when I was like, wait a minute, why is this thing not burnt to a crisp? And the fact that Godzilla was even shot by it. But it's like most of the monsters that Godzilla fought up to that point, you knew going in Godzilla was going to win, and he kind of won relatively easy in a lot of ways. But Hedra was the first monster, in my opinion, probably the toughest monster that he ever fought, that really gave Godzilla a run for his money. And it really set the tone for the 70s film, and which I think was needed, because you need to have a level of mystery in these films. You can't just keep doing what you've been doing by having Godzilla, you know, win, you know, lots of the time, really. And they presented so many different monsters. They really put Godzilla in a precarious situation, starting with Hedra. Like I said, I didn't want to see Godzilla lose, and I cut the movie off. And I was like really beside myself. And it's kind of funny now I think about it, how emotional I was. But that's how invested I was into the film, and how invested I was into Hedra as a kaiju. And once again, I find the movie very underrated. If you have not seen it, please go see it. Yes, it's kind of funky. Yes, it's kind of trippy. Yes, but once you really watch it, I think you have a good time with it. And it's a mixture of a lot of things. It's dark, it's gritty, it's weird, it's bizarre. There's silly moments. You know, it's kind of hard to label this film as one thing. And I think that's the beauty of Godzilla vs. Hedra. There is so many different films comprised into one thing, and you would think with a monster like Hedra on the surface, the way he looks, like, you can't believe in something like this. But trust me, once you watch it, you will be a Hedra believer. Trust me when I say that. And my top two collectibles is this guy. Now I know a lot of folks been saying here on the chat, or in the group, that they prefer the X plus 25 centimeter version of Hedra. I'm actually going with the 30. And this is the one that actually lights up with the red eyes, like he was smoking weed for 14 years. I don't have my battery pack, but I've been at this guy for the longest time. I've always wanted to, you know, have this guy, you know, so he's my favorite. And my second favorite is, of course, Godzilla himself, you know, the 71. The first 71, not the second one. I have nothing against the second one, nothing against that one, but I think this one is the better one. The second one was kind of made a little bit darker. I think this one is more grayish color and a lot more wear and tear on the suit that's reflective of how it looked in Hedra anyway. So I actually prefer the original version better. Nothing against the second one, but I actually prefer this one. So these are my top two collectibles from the film. And once again, I highly recommend Godzilla vs. Hedra. It's a fun film. It really set the tone for the 70s films, and highly underrated. And once again, it's a great film. It really is a great film.
And not to mention, we get to see Godzilla flying. So, I mean, that's something different.
Yeah, we saw Godzilla fly. As a matter of fact, you know what? That's a question that I want to pose to every one of y'all in the chat, as well as my co-host here. What was Godzilla's silliest moment in the 70s, but yet the one moment you still enjoy to this day? Godzilla flying here in Hedra, him talking in Gigan, the tail dragon drop kick in Megalon, him turning himself into a magnet in Mechagodzilla, or in 75. Let's see, what did he do in silly in 7? Well, he did everything silly in 75. I guess I can't think of anything in 75, but in the first 4 movies, him flying, him talking, the tail dragon drop kick, or the magnet, which silly moment is your favorite?
I don't think the 74 magnet, I take that completely seriously. I think that's one of the well, that's serious business right there. But
John's like, how dare you talk about that?
Yeah, that's my movie right there. I mean, that's all business. Look, I don't, I always had tough problem with Godzilla flying, with sliding on his tail. I thought Hedorah could have been one of the greatest Showa films without that. If that wasn't a part of it, that would have put it in, for me, very high, very high. But the one I can't stomach at all would be the tail, sliding. That one really. That messed up Megalon for me. But my favorite is the magnet, because he was on the island, absorbing the lightning. He was developing that weapon. It took preparation.
Let's see. I'm probably gonna have to go with the tail sliding. It's just a scene, like if you're ever watching it for the first time, that you just don't see coming. All the scenes are like nothing that you would ever expect from a Godzilla film or Godzilla to do in any kind of way. But that tail thing was something else. And the fact that they went back and replayed it like 3 times, like he does that to Megalon like 3 times over. At least with him flying, he kind of picks up Hedorah, brings him back, and that's it. No one really says anything about it after that. But someone working on that film had to say, I love this so much, we need to do it again. And then we got to do it one more time. So to me, that's it's pure Showa 70s fun with a tail slide.
All right, Samson, what's your favorite silly Godzilla moment?
I mean, yeah, I agree. The slam or tail kick, drop kick. Where was that? Came out of nowhere. Who saw that coming? That was the most just ridiculous thing you've ever seen Godzilla do. I mean, I admit him flying with atomic breath, this little figure right here, that was pretty insane too. But defying gravity and the laws of physics and flying across a landscape in Megalon was like, what was insane? I love it. It makes me immediately after he defies gravity again by picking up by the tail and just boom, and Megalon like that. That was insane. And there is a funny one from Terror, or it's not the funniest one, but from Terror Mechagodzilla, when Titasaurus grabs Godzilla by the face with his own face and then like punches him over again, and he like, remember that? That was the goofy Terror Mechagodzilla. That was the one that stood out for me with like a whoa, what the hell scene. My bad. So yeah, the tail slam is just unforgettable, man.
All right, Jeremy.
I absolutely love the Godzilla flying. That was a fond memory as a kid, way before the internet. Me and my mom would be watching that, and we were thinking, "What the heck?" I just remember her getting very excited over that and laughing about it. So, for me, that was my favorite. I say the least favorite goofy thing that I saw would be Godzilla talking. That just, I can't, for whatever reason, I just want to pretend like that never happens.
Well, my favorite moment, silly moment, is it's kind of hard to pick because they're all awesome. Honestly, they're silly, but they're all awesome, and they're kind of iconic in their own way, you know, and they're reflective of the film that particular move is associated with. But I'm going to go with the Human Magnet from '74, and not when he gets struck by lightning like John's. Mine is when at the end battle when he busts out his superpower, because at that point Mechagodzilla really beat the crap out of him like Godzilla owed child support, and it was. But then it's like Godzilla got beat down. He got hit with missiles, rainbow eye rays, and lightning, chest lightning, and then he got busted open, and but then when he tries to get away, and then he just has that power, and it's like he just, it's kind of hard to have like facial expressions on a suit like that, but just expression where he was like, and Mechagodzilla is getting closer and closer to him because of the power that Godzilla is wielding at that point. And it's like if Godzilla could talk, it's like he's saying to himself, okay, when I'm gonna get out, come on. And it's like at that point, after seeing Godzilla get beat down so badly, I'm with him. I'm like, come on, yes, come on, let's do it, So yeah, that moment is
Super Saiyan Goku
is my favorite. Yeah, it's kind of silly, hokey, but it was something that Godzilla needed, especially to give what Mechagodzilla had coming. All right. Now, before we go into the next film, which I know is somebody here's favorite, and I think you know who it is, let's do another trivia question. Now, this one's kind of harder, people. Maybe it is, but still, whatever. I'm still going to ask anyway.
It's the brand of the shoes, isn't it? It's the brand of the shoes that they're wearing in the Godzilla film, right?
No.
I'm giving John a hard time.
No, it's kind of hard. And again, if you've been watching these films as much as we have, it's probably not going to be that hard. But here's the question: aside from stock footage, okay, two 60s Godzilla suits in two of the 70s films. What suit appeared in? There's 160, and I'm gonna give you a hint. There's 160 suit that appeared in 1971. There's another one that appeared in. Which suits are those suits? Nope. Arterion Kaiju, not 62. Shoot, by then 62 was dust. No, but John knows what I'm talking about because he's shaking his head. So let's see. Phil the Kaiju King. Phil, you're half right. Well, no, Phil is actually Liam is the one that's correct. You're right, Liam. 65 and 67. Of course, the 65/66 was used in 71. Remember I mentioned earlier when Hedra tried to drown Godzilla in that crater. If you look closely, that's actually the 66 suit or 65. And of course, the 67 suit was used. Yeah, and the 67 suit was used in the water scenes. Gigan. So yes, Liam Foley, congratulations! Woo! And speaking of Godzilla vs. Gigan, let's go into that film right now. So overall thoughts and what's our favorite collectibles from those films? John, take it away, man.
I love the soundtrack, although it was borrowed from, sampled and all from previous Toho films. One of my favorites, certain scenes I can always get me the cockroach, cockroaches. Can't stand it.
Why a cockroach? I never understood.
Okay. I just don't like them. So seeing that at the end always disturbs me. But I love the film because that tag team, it's nothing like Godzilla and Anguirus or Anguillus. And, they get bloodied up, but Godzilla looks like he's on, at his, his last straw is over. And I always loved the Godzilla Tower. It's one of my favorite, I want the cast figurine for that. I think it's fantastic. Everything I can watch the film over and over and over again. It's just one of my favorites. I think it's if there wasn't Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Godzilla versus Gigan would probably be my favorite of the 70s.
All right, William, you up next.
Okay, so I'm gonna just say one bad thing about this film before I gush all over it, because as a kid this was my favorite film growing up. So with how unique Godzilla versus the Smog Monster was, Godzilla versus Gigan is definitely kind of like back to what you expect a Godzilla film to be, and that works. That's like a double-edged sword to me. So maybe a lot of the uniqueness is gone from what you kind of saw from Godzilla fighting a Smog Monster, but this is still a great film, and this is probably my favorite film, in the 70s era. I love everything about it. Gigan's my favorite, so the fact that he teams up with King Ghidorah in his first film is great. Having the tag team fights is just wonderful, and really, it's the first time that, as a kid, I felt that Godzilla was going to lose. Because it's also the first time I ever saw Godzilla bleed, which was crazy. I, never expected to see that ever. And so when he goes down, from the cuts, and then he's getting the hook to the face, it's just, he's a hot mess at that moment. So that was one of the few times where I was like, oh, that's it. Characters are all pretty interesting. They're definitely they're very strange, and they're not your typical Godzilla characters. No one's a scientist. No one's anything. The guy just happens to be looking for a job, and that kind of kicks off the whole entire thing, which is pretty strange for a Godzilla film. But yeah, I love this film. Music is great. It takes the best music from all different types of Showa films, and at the time, I didn't even know that they were from other films. So to me, I just thought it was a great soundtrack.
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, it definitely my favorite. As far as my favorite collectibles go, my first X Plus ever was the 30 centimeter Gigan. So this is a special, figure to me, just because this is what got me into collecting X Plus figures. And my other one would have to be this guy right here, the Godzilla Tower. Yeah. So this is my newest figure from Godzilla vs. Gigan, and this could be very well my favorite. I just love this piece. So it's so unique in so many different ways.
Fantastic.
Of course, Samson West is next, and of course, we all know Godzilla vs. Gigan is his favorite Godzilla film of all time. So I know he has a lot. The floor is yours, my man. Go for it.
All right. Sorry, my phone froze for a little bit there, so I kind of catching up on things. I need to get my Godzilla vs. Gigan stuff out. Yes, this is my favorite film, my favorite enemy, my favorite suit. Just everything about the film is just so much fun. As George mentioned, the tag team battle, that kind of way of going with it is great again, which they kind of did for most of the 70s films after Hedra. I like the plot. I agree with you, William. Just the fact that it starts off with just a lonely guy and his karate kicking girlfriend trying to get a job and work his way through just basic life. And well, she's a hard bitch. You gotta give her a break, man. So, but I just love the way it's so kooky and fun. Like when I mentioned earlier about cockroach aliens wanting eternal peace, but it's not the type of peace we would want. It's like, what does that even mean? Okay, it's whatever. Cockroach peace is different than any other peace in the entire known universe. But yeah, the movie, the storyline is great. The fight sequences, I love how it goes from Gigan and Ghidorah taking over Tokyo and just going on a bloodbath of rampage, or not bloodbath, but a city bath rampage and just destroying everything in their sight. And then Godzilla shows up, and it's part 2 of the monster action. It's now time for the actual monster battle. It goes from monster destruction to monster battle, which is really cool. And it's one of the longest sequences in Godzilla history of just monster action, from Godzilla and Gigan and Ghidorah attacking Tokyo to the end of the film where Anguirus and Godzilla swim off to happily ever after. But like I said, Gigan's such a unique monster. It's something we've really never seen before, because in the previous movies, the 60s and stuff, it's pretty much just giant versions of things that actually exist. We got giant praying mantises, giant lobsters, giant spiders. Ghidorah, yeah, that's different. That was the most creative thing back then. And I guess Gabra is not really that original. It's a giant goblin cat. But I mean, we haven't seen anything like this before. The big cyborg chicken. It's still, he gives Godzilla a run for his money. Like, he beats his butt towards the end of that, which is what I actually picked this up today from somebody. Fred Piccolo. I don't know if any of y'all know him in groups or whatever. Sorry, let me get my piece out. But the figure you're looking at in the center here, this is the Marmot Kit Godzilla 1972. It was one of those pre-painted. It either came as a kit or it was pre-painted and built. This is my holy grail item because this is signed on the tail in gold Sharpie. I don't know if you can see it. It's signed by Haruo Nakajima.
Nice.
Hey, but if I'm not mistaken, didn't your grandfather get you that?
My grandfather bought this for me because I begged him to. I found it on eBay. I got this when I was like a teenager back in the early 2000s. So, and since then, I've never seen a pre-painted version of this ever again. I've seen the kits, like more build it up and paint it yourself versions, which is, boom, what I got right here, the unpainted version of the figure. I bought this bag from a guy. I sold it to him earlier this year, and he put it up for sale, and I had to get it back because I regretted selling it to him. I'm going to do a battle damage version where I'm going to get like the bloody nose and the bloody shoulder on this one. And then also, this is a unique piece that it came with. This is another reason I wanted it back, because it didn't come with the pre-painted version. The kit version comes with this little piece of the Godzilla Tower. It's the claw of the destroyed Godzilla Tower.
That's dope. Wow.
And that comes with the kit version. So this is, I mean, it's a very easy figure to build, but yeah. But again, yeah, Godzilla vs. Gigan. The music, phenomenal. It's taken from other movies, but it's great. And I love that it's Haruo Nakajima's final like performance as Godzilla. I always, in my heart, I felt like he put all that he could into it, because he knew that it was going to be his final film, since Eiji Tsuburaya passed away in 1970 before they did Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and he knew that like he couldn't do any more movies without Eiji Tsuburaya, so he decided Godzilla vs. Gigan was his final role. So that's why I feel like Godzilla vs. Gigan was his final hurrah as the king of the monsters, and so I have a lot of respect for the Godzilla, Haruo Nakajima being Godzilla in that film. Even though the damn thing's falling apart like crazy, it's still a great suit, because the 68 suit, everybody loves that. Everybody can kind of say that they love the look of the suit, right?
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
an appealing look, but for me, the 72 one's the most menacing looking because his eyes are like sharper and stuff. But anyway, and hey, like I said, this is your fault for inviting me to the stream. You knew I was going to talk.
Yeah, and you know what? I highly agree with that. Out of all the 4 appearances of that suit, Gigan's my favorite, even though, like you said, it is falling apart. But for some reason, he just looks the best on his last appearance.
He looks the meanest. Out of all the 68, 69, 71, 72, he looks the meanest.
He does.
To me.
Wow.
It does. I know fellow Godzilla YouTuber Phil the Kaiju King is watching. His favorite is the 68. But that suit is just amazing in all 4 films. But for my money, I'm going with 72. Hopefully X Plus will get on top of that, 30 or 25.
That is my holy grail item, is for them to make a 20, just like, I mean, look how this actually goes pretty great with a 25 centimeter figure. For them to make a 25 centimeter bloody nose, bloody shoulder Godzilla 72.
That'd be great.
Yes. So S Plus, if you're watching or if you're listening to this broadcast, please make a 25 centimeter version or a 30 centimeter version of the 72 Godzilla to go with either one of these 2 guys. Trust me, you can make this happen. Like I said, or like what Samson said, make the Rick a battle damaged one. I think that would be good to go. All right, so Jeremy, you're next. Godzilla's a guy again. Go for it.
So I've got a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this film. It's not my
All right,
favorite.
we're moving on to Godzilla Megalon now because you hate her, so we're not going to do that.
I think the part that kills it for me is the talking in the film. I think it's just such an odd thing. Stock footage as a kid, I couldn't really tell, but as an adult, it's just like, man,
look at John. You see that, Jeremy? Look at that. Look at John.
I see it.
Yes, that was the best scene.
I think having the stock footage without it would have been a little bit better. The thing I really love about that movie is the design of Gigan, Godzilla, the tower, the illustration that they showed at the very front of the movie. There's a kaiju that's supposed to like represent that guy's boss. I really like that. And the tower itself, the Godzilla tower, is amazing. I really love that.
And you know what? That's another one I want X Plus to make. Like, they made a train biter, right? And that wasn't exactly in the film per se. Godzilla Tower. You can make it even a Rick exclusive. Just make it just as the Rick, just in case a lot of people may not want to go for it. The Godzilla Tower and have like a little light up in his mouth when he shoots the laser beam. I think that'll be good. Absolutely. Real good.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat.
So what's your favorite collectible from the film?
I would have to say my 25 centimeter Gigan with the light up feature.
Okay.
Which one do you have? Do you have the very original one, or do you have the one like I have the original where you yank the head off and you turn? Yeah, the head doesn't come off mine. It came as a kit or as a set with Megalon.
Yes. Yes, that was the Wonderfest set.
Where you can pull the head off and turn the light on and then put the head back on.
Wow.
That was the very, very first release of the 25 centimeter X Plus Gigan, which not many people know about.
I didn't know about that.
I don't imagine ripping my head.
Great.
Yeah, they reissued it several times. They reissued it with Megalon. They just reissued it as the dark version. But no, this is the very original one. And I thought that was kind of clever, where they didn't have to put a plug in the back of the heel or anything. You just take the head off, turn it on, and I mean, yeah, it's a little harder to get to and turn it on and off, but that way you don't have a big ugly dangly thing on the figure itself. It's hidden inside the figure.
Very cool.
And now I can't get the head back on.
Well, my thoughts for Godzilla's Gigan is I love this film. It's my second favorite Godzilla film. If Mothra vs. Godzilla was not my favorite, Godzilla's Gigan would probably be my favorite. It gets high praise from me. I know the problems that it has. I really do. But it's one of those films where even though the flaws are apparent, it's entertaining enough that you don't really care. You don't really care. And having Godzilla fight, alongside Anguirus up against Gigan and King Ghidorah, it's another thing. Gigan and King Ghidorah was a badass tag team. I don't care what anybody says. That was a badass tag team. And when you go through the 70s and you look at the 70s, and of course I'm gonna ask this question in a few seconds, and maybe you can think about your answer as I'm at before I ask it. But like, what the 70s films are known for great tag teams. Godzilla Anguirus, Gigan King Ghidorah, Gigan Megalon, Godzilla Jet Jaguar, Godzilla King Caesar, Titanosaurus Mechagodzilla. And it's like, out of all of them, Gigan and King Ghidorah is my favorite tag team. And of course, King Ghidorah is my favorite villain in the Godzilla franchise. But it's just, it has everything that you could ever want in a Godzilla film. You know, it has the great Ifukube music. You know, it has some great special effects, even though there's some stock footage involved. And I still maintain to this day, that fight scene of Godzilla vs. Gigan, in my opinion, is the best fight scene in all these kaiju films, hands down. Nothing against King Kong vs. Godzilla, nothing against Terra Mecha Godzilla, nothing against the fight scenes in GMK, but for my money, Godzilla vs. Gigan has the best fight scene. Once again, it's a great film. I highly recommend it. Don't want to go into a lot of detail because a lot of my fellow co-hosts have already echoed how I feel about it and how I look at the film. But once again, it's one of those films that, yes, it uses the whole alien invasion plot storyline, you know, but I don't know how y'all feel about it, but storyline will be used like maybe 4 times in the show series. And even though it was used a lot, to me, it never got old. It never got repetitive, you know, by introducing new monsters like Gigan and King Ghidorah, Mecha Godzilla, and Titanosaurus and other monsters. And they just were able to take this same old concept, build it around with newer characters and newer ideas, so the idea doesn't come off as stale or just something that's been used again or something that's been relied upon to get a story told, you know. Of course, the reason why they did this is because, you know, with Godzilla vs. Hedorah being so weird and funky, whatever, so Tanaka was like, no. Even though some fans may like it, we love it. Tanaka was not a fan. He was not a fan. He told Bono, "You will never direct another Godzilla film." So that was the reason why they brought Godzilla back to more of a conventional way with the aliens and King Ghidorah and the monster music, you know, whatever. But through it all, it's an amazing film. It really is. And my top 2 collectibles from this film, ironically, you just saw them, is really Gigan, the X Plus versions. I don't really know which one I want to choose, whether it's some light up 30 centimeter or the 25 centimeter. I think the 25 centimeter really is the perfect version of Gigan, suit accurate version. So if I had to pick one, I'm hands down. So, but this one is awesome too. And if you got the diamond reissue, but this one with the light up visor, you know, whatever, it really is an amazing piece. So that's my thoughts of Godzilla versus Gigan. And before we go into Megalon, one more trivia question, folks. And once again, thank y'all so much, my co-host. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. It's been just over an hour, and I'm having a good old time, fun time. So thank you so much for your input. Thank you so much for coming aboard. Thank you for everybody in the chat. I hope y'all are having a good time along with us. You know, whatever. I'm planning on having more live streams, and of course, I'll have these guys back at some point. I'll tell you what the next live stream is going to be towards the tail end before we sign off here tonight. But the next trivia question. All right. Let's see. You can name either one or both, but name at least one time in the 70s films where the Godzilla suit caught fire. Of course, you know, we kind of know of one, but he actually did catch fire in another film. You know, when you watch Fire, but he actually caught fire in another one. But so that's the trivia question. What movie did the Godzilla suit catch fire? Of course, it was accidental, but still, it's caught in the final cut of the film. Okay, so Phil the Kaiju King. Yep, Phil the Kaiju King is correct. 73, 75. Of course, 75 when Godzilla's running like he's on a soccer team and he gets bombarded with Mecha Godzilla, his suit catches fire. But in Megalon, when he's trying to pull Jaguar from stomp to the ground, and Megalon is from a distance shooting those bombs to create that circle of fire. Before Gigan flies off to meet with Megalon, you can actually see part of the 73 suit catch fire. So good. Feel the Kaiju King. That's what's up. Samson, you didn't catch. Trust me, if you had the movie on DVD, or if you got the Blu-ray, or if you're gonna get the upcoming Criterion Collection Blu-ray set,
Awesome.
you'll be able to see it. Like I said, when Gigan beats down Jet Jaguar, right? Godzilla runs over to help him before he blows Gigan away with his fire, right? And then at that point, Megalon starts throwing his bomb.
I remember him pulling him out of the ground. I don't remember him catching fire.
Yeah,
I'll have to-
yeah. But it's the moment before. It's the moment before Gigan flies off, and you can see Godzilla reaching down and pulling Jet Jaguar up. If you notice the tail end of its suit, it actually caught fire. Like I said, if you don't notice it, you actually can miss it, but it does happen on the film.
All right. Well, God, as many times I've seen that movie and that fight scene, I can't believe I don't remember that. But good amount of trivia to know.
And speaking of Godzilla's Megalon, let's go into the discussion right now. Overall thoughts, favorite collectibles. John, the floor is yours.
You know, Megalon, I didn't know Godzilla vs. Megalon really existed until Fangoria #1. That's how I learned about it. I couldn't believe that one photo of Godzilla, kind of over Megalon. I couldn't believe it. And it was the first time I had color photos of any Godzilla movies when that came out. And that Megalon, I had to see it. Thought I was going to see it on Saturday afternoon. It turned out to be a mistake, but eventually got to see it. Loved it. Loved the suit. And I didn't know the backstory at that time. That it was supposed to be just Jet Jaguar, but it's one of my favorites. I would love to have a actual size Jet Jaguar or something, prop or something, or just some of the diagrams, the things that are on the back in the room, where it's being built. A lot of great stuff just visually in the movie that I like. I always love the opening scene with the eyes are over the top. I love the way the 73 suit evolved, over 73, 74, 75. But I always love that 73 suit just for its break from everything else from the past. My favorite collectible, probably, the X Plus Jet Jaguar, the 25, but I had the Billiken first, and I always loved this kit.
Me too. He's awesome. I love him too. He's amazing.
Great angles. I mean, it's really in scale. Love the scale. Overall, it's one of my favorite, movies that I could always watch, and I love the Easter Island. The whole the Zootopia. A lot of great stuff about Godzilla vs. Megalon.
William, your turn, bro.
So I have like a love-hate relationship with this film. I do love it. I think it's really enjoyable. I think it's one of those. Hey, I'm sorry. I mean, it's my favorite film of all time. No, I mean, it's very enjoyable. It's a film that I think out of almost all the 70s, it's one that I could put on in the background and kind of come in and out of it very easily. It's it's just a very enjoyable film to have on the background when I'm doing something. So some of the things that I don't particularly like about it, some of the weaker aspects to it is, I mean, I know Gigan got beat by Godzilla pretty hard in the last film, but when he comes back, it's like a completely different kaiju. His look and everything like that, he doesn't look as threatening in this one for some reason. Right. I don't know if they altered the suit a little bit in some ways. I don't know too much. But it definitely looks strange. I couldn't believe that was the same Gigan. The other thing is, and I think for a lot of people, was this was the Godzilla film that everyone saw for some reason. Like I was saying earlier.
Yeah. Yes.
And I do think in some ways that is unfortunate, because I think there are better selections of Godzilla movies that I wish that were kind of more popular or was shown to a larger group. But for some reason, at that time, Godzilla versus Gigan was the one that, my parents told me that this was the one that was on television all the time. It had like an opening, quote unquote, like opening night on a television station.
NBC.
Yeah. And I think that's great because the more eyes on the product is always a good thing. But I think that's where a lot of the tropes or what people kind of considered like, oh, it's bad dubbing, it's bad special effects, it's all this stuff. And while to us it's not, it's great. But I think for an average person seeing that film might be very difficult to get into Godzilla. I wish there was a different one. Even in the 70s, there's some that I would choose over this one for people to see first. And as far as collectibles go, I don't actually have a lot from Godzilla vs. Megalon because I'm holding out for that elusive 30-centimeter Megalon that I keep asking for every time there's like a Wonderfest. And that, on the Kaiju X Plus group, everyone's talking about what they wish for. That's always the one that I wish for. Sooner or later I'll get it, but that's going to be the one that I'm holding out for.
Trust me, he's coming. That 30-centimeter Jet Jaguar that came out last year, that's confirmation that Megalon is coming.
True.
It's just only a matter of time because I don't see X Plus just producing just Jet Jaguar from that film and not producing the other three. I mean, maybe they'll just reissue Gigan, whatever. I still think there's enough of a difference between the 72 and 73 Gigan that warrants its own separate release. Mm-hmm. But definitely Megalon and Godzilla for sure. Definitely they're coming. Yeah. I don't have proof of this, but S Plus does not make random figures out the way like that without a reason behind it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So it may come later rather than sooner. But trust me, that figure was enough reason to foreshadow that they will get to it at some point. They just got other things on their plate right now, and I understand that. And as we've been talking, Samson has been like building walls over there. He built like a Godzilla fort. So it's your turn, Samson. Go for it. Overall thoughts of Megalon and your favorite collectible, and obviously you have plenty to choose from. So go for it.
Yeah, this movie sucks. I don't like it at all. Nothing good to say about it. All right. So as I said towards the beginning, this was one of the first movies I ever saw out of the few that I got on VHS growing up in the 90s. It was part of that double pack Godzilla vs. Megalon / Godzilla King of the Monsters. And the movie is just wild. I love just, it's so out there and outrageous with the characters, the plot, the kaiju / robot. Jet Jaguar is probably one of my favorite characters in the Godzilla universe that exists. I have always wanted to build my own Jet Jaguar suit and cosplay as that. I gotta get myself into shape first so I can be like a not quite so large Jet Jaguar, but who knows? Maybe I can be Jet Jaguar 30 years from now. I could be Jet Jaguar in his 50s. He's overweight, whatever. So the film is too much fun. Another great tag team battle: Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, Gigan, and Megalon. And the fight sequence, it's a good long fight sequence yet again. So I enjoy the monster action. It's one of the shortest films that exists. I believe it's only about 82 minutes long compared to some of the others. But it still delivers for a wacky, fun, just kind of little, just great film to watch if you're into a more mellow, kind of not so serious night of just Godzilla Kaiju watching. I mean, yeah. It's the perfect film for that. And the monsters I love because just like Godzilla vs. Gigan, Megalon, what a weird, different kaiju that we've never seen before. I mean, when they were sitting down and they were like doing a table discussion, whose stoned ass decided, hey, you know what'd be a really cool monster? Let's do a big beetle, but he has like drills for hands and he spits atomic, fiery, flaming loogies. And the executives were like, you're hired. I mean, it's too much fun. The monster's great. The film is fun. And I love everything about it. Favorite collectible pieces. I got a lot here. I kind of didn't realize that Megalon is the majority of the 70s that I own. I gotta say, the Gigabrain Gigan is my favorite because this is the only representation, the highly accurate representation of the 73 Gigan. Because there is a difference between the 72 and 73 suit, and the Gigabrain figure perfectly captures it, and it fits in perfect scale with the X Plus 25 centimeter line. So I have the full lineup with Gigan, Jet Jaguar, Megalon, and Godzilla. And I will say for my second one, it's probably going to be the Parababy Jet Jaguar with the little flying Jet Jaguar, because I got that when I was like maybe 13 years old off eBay or something, and that's the original one I've had ever since back in I think when it came out, 2004.
All right. Jeremy, you're up next, my man.
Yeah, so I remember falling in love with this film as a kid watching Monster Vision on the Sci-Fi Channel. They had this movie playing on Saturdays. And then I went and begged my mom to get the VHS for it. And I've always really enjoyed the Megalon design. It's a movie that, as an adult, I still really enjoy. One thing that always sticks out in my mind as a kid is that first scene where he's getting sucked into that, I guess like a
whirlpool.
Like a hole under the, yeah. I remember being scared as a kid that that you could get sucked into a giant hole like that. So it's one of those things that stuck out in my mind. As far as the film goes, that drop kicking scene is probably the only like quirky thing I feel that's kind of weird about it. But Jet Jaguar, he's really grown on me over the past few years and starting to love it.
And your favorite collectible?
25 centimeter Megalon that came as a set.
All right, I'll be brief in my commentary because I talked about Megalon earlier. My first ever Godzilla film. Can't bring myself to bash it. You know, this was my door. I walked in and I've not been out since. And I owe a lot to this film. But I understand its problems. But I still do not subscribe to this idea or this narrative that this is the worst Godzilla film out there. Far from it. I don't feel that way.
No way.
It's very simple. It's very simple. A bad monster comes in, Godzilla comes in to beat him down, Godzilla defeats him, and he goes back. It's very simple. Something so simple that children can get behind it. I do understand that this film does have a lot to do with why Godzilla does not exactly have the best reputation here in the United States. Even with the recent release of King of the Monsters and this whole monster versus, of course, new fans are coming into the character and to the hobby. But you still got a lot of fans out there that still watch this film, know about this film, and when they first think of Godzilla, it's like, oh, that silly Tokyo stomping lizard thing. And Megalon, a good majority of the 70s films had a lot to do with that because this film, Godzilla, is so far off from where he originally was in 1954. Even 62 and 64, he is no longer this threatening, fearsome monster that has chose to rise up and destroy the world. Now he's on our side. He's our savior. And I know there are a lot of Godzilla fans still to this day are not behind that idea. They don't like how Godzilla was converted into this goofy superhero. But I asked this question to everybody. Would you have become a fan if you did not see Godzilla become a goofy superhero first? I mean, I know everybody comes into the hobby and to the character differently. And I think I would have had a different perspective if I would have came into this with the King, like with the original 54. because that film is so dark and so dreary that I don't know if I would have been able to latch on to Godzilla as a fan. I think it took me seeing him as this goofy, powerful, happy-go-lucky superhero, see him stomp on his way to help Jaguar fight Megalon and Gigan. It took me seeing that for me to become a fan, and then I was able to buy him being a villain and being all these different things that we will see him become throughout the years. And that's why, like I said, I will not bring myself to bash this film or hate this film. Yes, it is not the greatest in the world. Yes, there are far more Godzilla films that I would recommend to a kaiju newbie or a new person. But at the end of the day, it's still an entertaining film. And that's what the point of these films are to begin with. They're supposed to be fun, entertaining. Of course, some are going to be more entertaining than others, but I still cannot deny that this film is loads of fun. It's very simplistic. It's to the point. It accomplished, it's very self-aware of what it is. It doesn't try to be more than what it is. It's just a simple, fun kaiju film, which were a sign of the times during the 70s. And once again, I owe a lot to this film because it was Megalon. And my top 2 favorite collectibles is, of course, you've seen them earlier. It's the 25 centimeter Megalon. Man, this guy is awesome. If you don't have this figure, I hope X Plus does either reissue this guy or make a 30 centimeter, because this monster I find to be very underrated too. Just an amazing monster, and an X Plus figure form, or even the resin chef model kit of Megalon. He's awesome, but I hope that X Plus does do a 30 centimeter version, or at least reissue this guy. It's a shame that the Diamond deal fell through, because I know a lot of folks were really hoping to get this guy through Diamond, but then that fell through. Hopefully that new deal with Famous Monsters, hopefully they can reignite the conversations to get this guy again out. So people were very disappointed that they canceled this, because Megalon was on a lot of people's list from what I understand. So hopefully they can rectify that. If not, hopefully we'll get that eventual 30 centimeter sooner rather than later, but only time will tell with that. And of course, Godzilla 73. Now, I love this one, but I actually like the Wonderfest one better that Samson has on his table, the one on the far, far left. That one with the open mouth. I actually like that one better. I love this one, but it's just, look at this.
The Rick of that, like I have, because I got the original Rick of the very first one back in 2009. It comes with an interchangeable head with the open mouth. So
exactly.
It has the mouth of the Wonderfest, but the arms are kind of tucked in like that. And I have the head. I have it with me somewhere in the box. So I do have the Rick version of this also. But I agree. I kind of like the fierceness of the Wonderfest looking one. And one thing I wanted to touch base on, I forgot to say, I'll be quick. The fact that they did an MST3K of this movie, Mystery Science Theater 3000, I'm not insulted by that whatsoever. Like, they're making fun of Godzilla. That movie is hilarious with the commentary by those guys.
And it's one of those films that you can riff on it, but still have a good time with it. Like, you're not making fun of it and like really laughing at it and putting it down. You're actually, you're noticing the shortcomings, but you're having a good time with it, but still enjoying it at the same time. Godzilla vs. Megalon is one of those films, but once again, that's why I would not bring myself to say or be a part of that narrative that this is the worst Godzilla film. Far from it, in my opinion. But yeah, those are my 2 top favorite figures from this movie. Before we go into Mechagodzilla, I got one more trivia question, and then that probably be it. And after we're done with Mechagodzilla, Alan Hollowell. Yes, Alan Hollowell live stream. But with this new service, this new StreamYard service, I can only have like maybe up to 5 to 6 people at a time. Whereas Google Hangouts, you can have up to 10 participants. But with this new service, I can only have up to 5 and 6. And since he was like one of the last ones I contacted to be on this stream, that's why I wanted to have y'all up here first. But I'll definitely have him on the next live stream. But the point is, he offered some rapid fire questions I'm gonna throw to y'all, my co-hosts, on this live stream. So be aware of that. But this last question, and of course it's probably going to be an easy question anyway, but how many times in 70s films did we see Godzilla bleed?
Oh, wow.
Are we counting stock footage?
No. As a matter of fact, he was stopped for this because Godzilla bled for the first time in the 70s.
Yeah.
Now he got the crap. Now he got the crap kicked out of him a few times in the 60s. But as far as like physical blood, it was first shown in the 70s, and that was by design because A.G. Subaraya didn't believe monsters should have bloodshed, especially Godzilla. He did not allow that, which is why we got bloodshed in these films. But yeah, he was against that because he felt that the monsters should be more, more. What's the word? Since he wanted to have children watch more of the films,
yeah,
he didn't want to have too much of monster violence, and especially when it was bloodshed. So Subaraya was against that. So Godzilla Train 1090, you're absolutely right. Twice. Let's see. Phil the Kaiju King says I say 3. I think his nose. No, his nose was not bleeding in 71. The 2 times that we saw Godzilla bleed was twice. Godzilla Train 1090 said it first, but did he bleed? What movie did he bleed? You can just say the year, and then go from there. But yeah, now in Hedra, his eye got lost. His hand got burnt to the bone, but ironically, Godzilla didn't bleed. Amazingly so, he didn't bleed. He bled only twice. So, but we'll move on to Mechagodzilla. Hopefully, huh?
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah. So he bled twice. So hopefully, in the comment section, you can say what those movies are. So now let's go into 1974's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and of course, John Ruffin. Already know how you feel, brother. Already know. I know you have a lot to say when it comes to this film. I know if Shin Godzilla wasn't your favorite, this guy will be your favorite. So the floor is yours. 74. Go for
it. I want to say a couple things comment about a couple things you said moments ago about the transition from Godzilla obviously being almost an incarnation of evil, transition to being the friend and ally. That's a really important part of the Godzilla story arc, just over the Showa films. And I want to mention it because that's something interesting to study. And if anyone wants to get deeper into mythology and just scholarly explaining why we do that because I didn't like to watch 1954 at all. I mean, it would come on and I would never watch it to the end. I didn't want to see Godzilla die, and I didn't like when Godzilla was evil. I mean, it was just like, no, Godzilla's always good. He got a good guy, fights for us, But it was, now I love it. And 54 really sits on top of everything. And Shin Godzilla and 74 are fighting it out for number 2. With that said, I would encourage the reading of works like Rene Girard, a couple very, very, very this is called Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World. It's a series of books he had that could peel back what we do when we deal with trauma or events, particularly on movies, is helpful because the conversation that Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan have in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster is so informative on the transformation of Godzilla later into my favorite film in 74. And I pulled out my video set when I first got Godzilla. This is Godzilla versus.
That's awesome.
When I first saw it on TV, well, I was able to record it in VHS, and also had a box day today, and
oh,
found on Mandarake this cool little Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla book with little book, and it's like this little comic book version.
Huh.
I don't want to break the spine, so I won't open it too much, but you can kind of see.
That's really cool.
So, yeah. Cool. And another one of this is I'll show it. The comic book kind of version of Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Mm. Oh, that's sweet.
And growing up, in 84, 85. Favorite album. I mean, I listened to the Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. It's just a Mechagodzilla song. I listened to that thing over and over again on my record player until a few years ago I got this album that kind of covers Godzilla. So they're just some of my favorite collectibles. Now, when it comes to the movie itself, I mean, I've watched that like religiously over and over and over again. It's my favorite. I mean, I think Godzilla is at his best. It's most powerful. Maybe 75 is at its most powerful, but everything about the film, the opening. I'm trying to get to Okinawa so I can go to some of the sites, you know, that were used in film in the movie. Wow, so much to say about it. I love the opening when, you know, that huge rock that comes out of the volcano. You know, Godzilla. That's always strange and bizarre to me. Like, what, you know, what's going on? But I found a book in one of my books the other day. It was a rock. I didn't know what exactly it was. It Mechagodzilla just kind of curled up in a ball, and you know, in his disguise. Nothing wrong with that film. Everything about it is perfect to me. Rock solid. I remember when I first saw it, I used to record all the Godzilla movies I saw on cassette tape, and I would just listen to it over and over again throughout the week. And so, like, every word, you know, just everything is, I just can relive it in my head, and nothing like the soundtrack too.
Thank you.
And it's every collectible I have for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is my favorite. Books, and I can't wait for the gigantic. Just bring on the gigantic.
Yes. Where is it? Where is it? Now I understand you're preoccupied with obese looking Godzillas. I get that. I get that. You want to capitalize on that Cheeto eating Kong loser, but
the one that's gonna beat Kong.
Now hold up. Was that the devil talking? We understand you want to capitalize on King of the Monsters, but yes, we want that Mechagodzilla. If I make a suggestion on that, the gigantic Mechagodzilla, I know y'all still trying to put all the ins and outs together. The Rick version of that, make it into like the dock, like, you know, put them like in, like, you know, put them like on that pedestal, like the dock, and have like, you know, like the packaging, like a real detailed diorama. That could be the Rick. You know, you tried it with the 25mm version, didn't look so well. But this one, the Rick, make it like I said with the dock, and make it like, you know, make the background like he's in his secret base. I think that would be a great way to go for the Rick. So, William, go for it, bro.
Oh, John, were you gonna say something real quick?
I was just gonna say, if they don't do that, include King Caesar's statue, because I need, you know. I gotta get there. Thanks, William.
So I want to touch on what, you know, really what you were talking about before about different Godzilla like incarnations as far as like what he represents. And I was actually just listening to a podcast, Tokyo Lives, and they were talking about gatekeeping in the community. And I do think it's really important to understand that it's Godzilla at the end of the day. And there's a Godzilla for every single person. You know, whether you want your Godzilla to be dark and scary, you have like 54, you have Shin, you have 84. If you want him to be a superhero, you have the 70s. If you want him to be an anti-hero, you have the 60s. And if you want him to be a force of nature, you have most of the Heisei. So there's a whole combination there. But at the end of the day, the core is still Godzilla. And no matter what you're watching, he still represents, you know, whatever you want him to be, and he is always going to be just Godzilla. And that's the beauty of it, because I think we would all agree that if it was just a series, there was like, for let's say, show of 15 movies of just the same thing, like in 54, I don't think anyone would really be all that excited about that. He has to change over time, and just like with every property, no matter what it is, he's been around for what, 65 years it is now. So you have to change, and you have to kind of do different things with him. And that's why he has such a everlasting appeal to anyone, you know? But
That was beautiful.
So the movie itself, so Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Oh man, this is so much fun. I mean, the music alone is so upbeat and different from really almost anything you were hearing. You know, you kind of almost have to go back to Son of Godzilla to really have anything close to it. You know, it is such a unique sound, and the Mechagodzilla theme itself, you know, when he's attacking, is so good. I think the scene that really sticks out to me is the oil refinery where Godzilla and Mechagodzilla first meet. I mean, it starts off strange because Godzilla comes out of a building, which I don't get. I mean, he's appeared in a lot of different ways, but for some reason he comes out of a warehouse, like he just finished his 9-to-5 shift. And then all of a sudden Mechagodzilla gets all in flame and come out, and then you see it, and you're just blown away. And to me, it is still the best looking Mechagodzilla. There is nothing that comes close to it. The sound, all the sounds that it makes, the roar, everything is just so iconic that no matter whenever we say Mechagodzilla, everyone thinks of that, in my opinion, you know. And the battle scenes itself, you know, the tag team between King Caesar and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, even with 2-on-1, Mechagodzilla is just lighting them up. It's not even close. There's a point where King Caesar isn't even a factor in the fight. He's just so powerful, and that's what I really liked about him. I just thought he was just unbelievable. He was the first legitimate threat in a very long time, or at least to me when I was watching these films, since I first saw King Ghidorah, you know, in his, you know, first film. So it just he is, and that film is just so good, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And Collectibles. So this is another film that I'm waiting on X Plus for. So I pretty much just do 30 centimeter, unless obviously like King Ghidorahs, who are never going to be made into a 30 centimeter, or, you know, in the near future anyway. I don't see that happening. So I am waiting for a King Caesar. You know, I think that is really my number 2 that I really want. A lot of my Mechagodzilla stuff is actually for Terror of Mechagodzilla. So, you know, I'll show that off later. But, you know, all really cool stuff. Mechagodzilla, you can't go wrong with any kind of figure or anything like that.
All right, Samson, go for it.
All right, so now that I got my little setup here,
setup.
This was my first film. This is how I got into the franchise. So this movie holds a lot of nostalgia for me. My father introduced it to me, and my mom, she tells me the story now that I'm grown up, and I love it. She looks at my dad and goes, "Steve, do you think he's a little young for that?" And he was like, "No, I grew up watching that, and I loved it." Idea what they were getting themselves into, and boom, here I am 24 years later with a fucking room full of monsters and just with this huge obsession, and I love it. And it's all thanks to Dad and this movie right here. And I love the suit, and that's X Plus. Give us the 1974 suit to go with these two guys right here, because the King Caesar 25 centimeters, they're pretty perfect. I mean, the King Caesar looks amazing. The Mechagodzilla is great. So we just need the Godzilla to fit in this spot right here that I got open and available. But the movie itself, it's great. It's and it was a long time coming. I mean, who didn't think that we were going to get a mechanized version of Godzilla? Come on, that had to have happened sometime in our lifetime. Boom, 1974. That's when it happened. And out of the 70s movies, that's when they kind of went back to the more serious tone. If you watch like the Sony DVD copies and like the Blu-rays and stuff, I grew up on the VHS copy. They actually cut out a lot of the violence in that. But if you watch the DVDs, the movie is actually kind of violent for a Godzilla film.
Oh yeah.
The the language and kind of the ape alien gore and violence. I mean, the scene on the boat, that is just so classic to me. The secret agent, the ape alien secret agent. What was his name? Was it just Agent?
I don't think you ever got a name from him.
2.
I'm thinking of an Interpol agent.
But when he got shot in the face, and just that whole sequence of the hero chasing him across the boat and trying to get him, and then he gets shot and flies off, and just that scream resonates with me because I remember that when I was a kid. It terrified me, that Rah! As he falls off the boat. And I love the film for what it is. The fight sequence, the music, yes, as William said, the music is great in that one. I love it. It resonates. I could go on and on about this movie because it was the first one that I got into, and it was just such a fun film. It's what got me into the franchise, and I love everything about it. And let's see now, favorite figures. It's kind of hard to decide because I love all this stuff. I'm gonna go with King Caesar because this figure is the best representation of this monster that I've ever seen, and I'm gonna go with the guy here, the Godzilla, exposed metal on this side of his body, and on that side of his body. And this is actually, the Par Baby line is kind of a doofier, almost formed looking line. This is like the best representation of the fake Godzilla that we got. This big old weird monster has, the way that they sculpted it, it's the best looking one that we have. Oh, Leslie, I know you start talking, but
I don't got nothing.
Yeah,
I don't got nothing.
Little fake Godzilla, right?
It's not my go yet, but I ain't got nothing. Actually, it's Jeremy's turn. It's the Kong hater's turn. So go ahead, Jeremy.
That's right. He's not. I can't see him, so I keep ignoring him.
All right, Jeremy, go for it.
Yeah, so 74. Mechagodzilla is my absolute favorite kaiju, probably more than Godzilla even. I really don't have a lot to say as far as complaints of the movie because I love every part of it. King Caesar rules. I'm with John. I want to go to Okinawa to see some of the sites. I don't know. There's really not a lot I can say. I wish X Plus would make a imposter Mechagodzilla with the exposed metal arms. I think that would be really neat, actually.
More on that later.
That's about it. Anything Mechagodzilla that comes out, I usually will try to pick it up just because I love it.
What's your favorite collectible from the film?
It's got to be the 30 centimeter Mechagodzilla, which right now it's missing 2 fingers. When I took them to the sand dunes, they got snapped off. So I'm trying to figure out a way to replace it so it looks a little less awkward. But right now, that one. But when that gigantic comes out, I think it's going to trump over my old favorite. I'm absolutely ecstatic for that gigantic 74 to come out.
Yeah. All right, my turn. Just answer a question that Gojir851 asked. What's up, man? Sorry you couldn't make the chat, or at least make the stream. Next time for sure. He had a question for all of us, so maybe we can answer real quick before I go into my thoughts of Mechagodzilla and collectibles. He asked, would you have liked if Anger is returned at the end of the film and get some payback, or just leave it the way it was in the final cut? John, then William, then Samson, then Jeremy, and then whatever.
I would have loved to have seen him return, because that scene where Anguirus, he's come out of call for Godzilla, I would have loved to have seen him come back, at least, some way reunite with Godzilla. But I have to read and dig a little bit and try to figure out how that resolves out in that particular scene where he kind of comes back. I never could understand that part. But yeah, I would love to have seen him come back.
Yeah, I think at the end I would have liked to have seen him come in. Maybe not in the battle itself, but just something to kind of to let everyone know that he's okay. You know, he survived that beating that he got. You know, just something small just to kind of tie up, because I always felt like that was kind of like a loose end. You know, maybe they were planning on something to do with that, but it got cut. Because I think it would have been, you know, a little bit more interesting, kind of have everything taken care of.
All right, Samson. All right, Samson, you're up.
I'm having a hard time hearing what's going on. The audio is cutting in and out on my end.
And can you hear me now? And can you hear me?
It's like
It's most likely his internet connection is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I heard you say that. Yeah. The fact that I'm using my phone, because like they said, it's experimental whether the phone very well on my end. So here what the discussion that we're trying to supposed to be answering.
The question is, would you have liked to see Anguirus come back at the end of the film to help out Godzilla and King Caesar, or would have kept Anguirus, you know, crippled in the film?
I mean, he was a cool monster, and I don't know what the whole thing is about. Caesar statue back to the royal family. It's still there. I hope they still have control over King Caesar, and they could bring him back anytime they want. Final Wars, for some weird reason, but how did that happen? And so if we could bring him back again, I think he's obviously still around. So and I mean, there's the opportunity to be able to bring him back because he's an ancient god like Kaiju. So he can just stay asleep for all these years and just, I mean, bring him back at any time. So I feel like there's potential for him to come back and or to revamp him. I mean, they could change because he's an ancient being, and they're kind of going about that with the MonsterVerse that we have now. So I think that there's potential for him to be part of the legendary Godzilla verse.
And Jeremy, how do you feel?
Well, Samson kind of confused me. Are we talking about Anguirus or King Caesar?
No, Anguirus. Gojira 851 asked the question: would you have preferred Anguirus come back at the end battle to help King Caesar and Godzilla fight Mechagodzilla, or would you have kept him, you know, crippled in the film as it was?
Okay. My apologies. I'm kind of indifferent about it. I think they might have left him out for the fact that the tag team on both sides for the for Godzilla to have a partner, I guess. I think it kind of would have been cool if he would have fought with Mechagodzilla personally, but so there'd be like a double tag team there. I think that's where I would like to maybe see him.
All right. It might be the complete opposite of what everybody else said earlier. I don't play devil's advocate. I think that it was fine the way it is because, in my opinion, Anguirus being manhandled and being beaten down at the hands of Mechagodzilla was there to prove how dangerous Mechagodzilla was. And so to have him come back at the end probably would have lessened the threatening aura that Mechagodzilla had, you know? And of course, the reason why Mechagodzilla is so awesome, at least the Showa one, and why a lot of people gravitate toward that version of Mechagodzilla, is because of his awesome performance here. The fact he was able to keep both Godzilla and King Caesar at bay, you know, at least for a good while. Because if you look at that fight scene at the end, it was 80% Mechagodzilla. I think if you throw Anguirus into the mix, it's kind of like ups to ante, which kind of like makes Mechagodzilla's onslaught a little bit less. Because now, instead of having two monsters to deal with, he now has to deal with three. Now, they could have very easily had Mechagodzilla overpower all three monsters, but I think that would have been overkill, in my opinion. So, in my opinion, I'm how they use Anguirus. Anguirus was just there to build up Mechagodzilla. And I think it worked because Anguirus at that point had nothing left to prove. At least they done him better here than in Megalon, where we saw him for like what 2 seconds. So at least he has a purpose here. You know what I'm saying? He has a purpose, and even though that purpose, like I said, was seeing him get beat down, whatever by Mechagodzilla. But if you notice in Godzilla versus Gigan, Anguirus kept coming. He kept coming. He kept coming. He kept coming after getting his head sliced open, after getting bashed over and over again by Gigan's claws, by being ruthlessly beaten down by King Ghidorah. Anguirus kept coming, but after Mechagodzilla put the beat down on him, Anguirus ran away. We didn't see him anymore.
Yeah.
And this is a testament how dangerous. So I think it was better the way it was done in the final cut of the film. And speaking of the film, I won't go into a lot of detail because obviously a lot of folks have said, pretty much what I'm going to say. I love this film. I so love this film. It's like I have a hard time picking my favorite out of the 70s films. I always flip-flop between this one and Gigan, but I always come back to this one for some reason. Favorite moment in the entire Godzilla franchise, which I'll talk about Collectibles in a few seconds, but in an era where we saw Godzilla fly and Godzilla talk and Godzilla defy physics with the drop kick, like Samson said, at least they brought it back a little bit. Try to bring it back a little bit more by making it more serious and darker. Of course, they took a little more darker tone with the next film. But I think for Godzilla's 20th anniversary, in fact, they brought forth a kaiju villain that was just as dangerous as the original Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. I think that was a great way to go. I love this film. I really do love this film. I love the monsters involved. It features my favorite suit of the 70s, 74. Hopefully S Plus can get on that at some point. So I just love the film. So I want to talk about more about Collectibles before I go into Terra Mechagodzilla. But I know I got two, but I do want to notate a few other things before we move on here. First of all, this book right here. First of all, thank you, Weasley, put me in this direction. But this is actually the total special effects books devoted to a particular kaiju. In this case, this is Mechagodzilla. And in this book, they have great high def.
I love that thing.
Yeah, it has great photographs of Mechagodzilla in this picture book. I'm about to show you in a few seconds. I'm gonna do a review on these books real soon on my channel. Please stay tuned. But it has like great behind the scenes photographs of the suit.
Oh,
as soon as I hold on, bear with me here. Right there. See? That is awesome.
Yes,
that is amazing. That is so cool.
Ideal shot, like that's great detail to look at the suit, man.
Yeah,
it shows exactly what it looks like.
Right, and as I mentioned earlier with X Plus with the gigantic, this is what I want to see. Make the Rick like in his dock mode.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Something like this with the dock and the pedestal. But these picture books,
the 25 centimeter line, they did the dock version of that already.
Yeah, but the packaging was obviously the dock. I'm saying for the gigantic, make it more detailed. You know, I mean, they can go back to the same Rick option because they've done it before with other figures. But with the gigantic, make it more detailed, make it more crisp, more dynamic. You know, but this book is awesome. This really is awesome with the photographs. I highly recommend this book. You know, like $25-$30, you know, whatever. It has a picture of him fighting against Godzilla, as you can see. That is awesome. And of course,
that's a great detailed shot of the 74 Godzilla. You can see how good the 74 looks in that book.
See what I'm saying? Like these are really
that's what
high quality.
They need to have that book when they're sculpting the face.
Right. See what I'm saying? Like these are great high quality photographs. Even this picture right here. Even this picture right here, where you can see it's kind of hard with the glare, but you see Godzilla like laying down on the ground, you know, whatever, where they're starting the film where you get a point of view from Mechagodzilla's ankles and Godzilla's like laying down. I always wonder why is Godzilla laying down, but this photograph shows he's just chilling. he's just chilling right here, bro. But yeah, I would recommend this book. Please get this book. Of course.
By the way, I feel like an idiot now because I kind of can hear audio better. I thought you were asking about King Caesar coming back earlier. That's why I went on that whole random tangent. Y'all were talking about Anguirus. I feel like a fool because now I understand why y'all were looking at me like, what the hell is this dumbass talking about?
It's all good, man. It's all
I'm
good.
sorry.
John,
You want this book. This is the best book on Mechagodzilla, the show on Mechagodzilla. It's a must-have. For like
How do I get it?
1999, you can't go wrong. This is everything. Mechagodzilla.
How do I get that?
Amazon Japan.
How much was it? How much was it?
$19.99.
Damn,
Hey,
that's bad.
the same thing.
Darn, that's bad.
I think it had sold out, and then they got it back in, but it went fast. But now it should be plenty of them. But
What's the official title?
it's just Show of Mechagodzilla. Show of Mechagodzilla. I mean, it's actually
And this book right here,
with details, and you have to have the one that show us.
and this book right,
Yeah,
and this book right here is like $25 too. So both of these books we highly recommend. They're awesome, especially if you're a Mechagodzilla fan.
everything you want. Your diagrams, details. I mean, it actually has both scripts in it as well.
oh wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
It's
I need
awesome.
that.
Yes. It's a must.
Now, as far as other collectibles from this film, of course, King Caesar, and I got the Rick with the statue. Again,
don't that out. That's not right.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I got one too, John.
Sure.
Once again, Diamond, please get on this, or Famous Monsters, whoever is doing the Diamond deal with S Plus, get on this, or S Plus. Now, they did reissue King Caesar with light up eyes just recently, but I actually like the Rick option for this one better with the statue and the perked up ears. You know, but if you got the recent,
God, this is miles ahead of the light up eyes. I mean,
Yes.
it's so much cooler.
Look how
Right.
big the statue is. It's huge.
right, and
It's a pretty good exclusive.
and it's superbly detailed. It really is.
One day.
I would like to see a life-size version of that statue,
Yeah.
like a 25-centimeter replica of it would be amazing.
Yeah. So hopefully Diamond can get their hands on this, or if X Plus decides to revisit King Caesar in a 30-centimeter version, in my opinion, this is just a suggestion. If you do make a King Caesar 30-centimeter version, do what you did with the 25-centimeter fourth form of Hedra that just came out. Not the soft one, but the one that came out a couple years ago. Combine past Rick options. Yeah, the pipe. Combine.
Right.
That's a powerful pipe.
Now,
Yeah.
don't point that at the computer. You may shut it off.
Oh.
But as I was saying, hopefully
That's
X
the reason
Plus,
that my thing's
X
not
Plus
working.
will
It's got that damn pipe.
Exactly, it's separated from us.
but hopefully X Plus can revisit the King Caesar in the 30-centimeter version. And if you do, make the Rick version come with perked up ears, the statue, and light up red eyes. I think if that were to happen, all of us would be going Rick on that guy. And
Absolutely.
That's like an ultimate combo right there.
ultimate combo, the same thing they did with the fourth form of Hedra with the light up eyes, the eye patch, the extra arms. You know, they jam packed that release with a whole bunch of extras. Do the same thing with King Caesar. And my last collectible, my favorite collectible from this film is, of course, Phil the Kaiju King mentioned this earlier, but my built up kit of the Godzilla.
thing is so
Oh my
sick.
God.
Yeah, that I just wish that would come out as a figure. That thing is so amazing.
Hopefully X Plus can contact Burley and use his sculpt, and because this guy is awesome. And with hold on, where is it? Okay. Even though it's not the correct Godzilla from the film, I put these two together and it creates my favorite moment from the entire Godzilla film franchise, seeing the two Godzillas go at it at the oil refinery. But through it all, this is my favorite collectible from the film. Thank you, Mark Sanyang, for building and painting this. Thank you, Burley and Steve Saragioli, for making this happen.
Yeah.
X Plus, contact Burley, make this happen, make this into the favorite sculptors line. But we need fake Godzilla. Surely do need fake Godzilla.
Sure.
And finally,
Oh,
let's go into the final film of the 70s films. And after that, we're gonna wrap up this review. I'm gonna try to have everything done by like 8:30. Because I know I kept y'all here longer than 2 hours. Sorry about that. Okay. But let's try and breathe through this as quickly as possible so we can get y'all done by 8:30. No, it's fine. Cause I kind of started off late because, like I said, I'm new to this new streaming service, and I don't want to keep y'all here longer than when I have to. You know what I mean? So, but we're down to this last film. 1975's Terror of Mechagodzilla. Of course, overall initial thoughts, favorite collectibles. John, William, Samson, Jeremy. John, the floor is yours.
Nothing like Terror of Mechagodzilla. And fans disagree, but I love, because it was Henry G. Saperstein, I'm not pronouncing his last name, his opening prologue that he added to the, I guess, the television release, maybe it was, just kind of summed up the first 14 films and kind of brought everything forward to set up Terror of Mechagodzilla. I look forward to seeing that every time it was on television. There's so much to love about it. The fact that Godzilla takes on both Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus, you know, let me speed up. One collectible that I really love. It's a book, but it inspired me for years. It's a book. I think it was like 91, 92. It's a part of the work of Masami Yamada-san, his work, but it has terrific dioramas with Mechagodzilla, Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. If I can get one. That just inspired me. And when I did not have the movie to see, I mean, I always had the book to look at. But just some great hits, models, you know. But I can't say enough. Saddest scene for me is when Godzilla goes off at the end, you know, to bring the show era to a close. Collectibles, nothing like the 25 centimeter RMC light up Mechagodzilla. That's my favorite. Comes with a great base.
Oh yeah.
There's so many other things, but that's one of my favorites. And you know, there's I can't recall, the little diecast Bandai Mechagodzilla 75 comes with the titanium chip that, you know, comes off during a battle, and all in there. But I love everything about the movie, especially when Godzilla jumps in. I don't know if the two kids survived when they were sneaking around and Titanosaurus was coming. And I always wondered about that. I look at it over and over again, but I like to believe Godzilla saved them. I love that scene.
So Terror of Mechagodzilla is my favorite out of the two. It's actually, I saw Terror of Mechagodzilla first before I saw Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. You know, it's very dark. It's very dark. A lot of stuff went over my head when I was younger, but man, the destruction sequences in this film, like Terror of Mechagodzilla, like everything blows up.
Yeah.
Everything. It doesn't matter. Like I'll always remember when Mechagodzilla is standing over a street and he fires his finger missiles, and you just see the whole entire ground just explode up, and it looked great. I mean, so much destruction, a great battle. I think that's my favorite tag team, Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla. I think it works great. Titanosaurus is more ground and pound. It almost feels like he would be part of like the older Showa films in some ways. But yeah, overall, it's a great film. Very different from Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. They're two totally different films, but they have some continuity with each other, but it's a little confusing. As far as collectibles go, I would have to say this guy here is probably my favorite. Again, from my girlfriend. He has like a Mechagodzilla head. He can go into a flying pose. He can do a lot of stuff, but this is the way I like to keep him, with a little brain, because I found that
cool. The Bandai Soul of Shigoken Mechagodzilla 1975.
Yeah, and he comes with a little piece of space titanium. So, and then also my 30 centimeter Titanosaurus. Titanosaurus is actually probably, believe it or not, a top 4 favorite kaiju of mine. I, for some reason, just always really liked him. Yeah, his roar can be kind of annoying, but I don't know. There's just something about him that I like coloring. I like everything. So this is like a perfect representation of him in figure form.
Could I add something
All right,
real
Samson,
quick?
you're
When I
up
was-
next.
Nope.
Go for it. Go for it, John.
when I was in Japan a month or so ago, Ed Holland showed me the street that Mechagodzilla blew up with his finger missiles that scene is based off of.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, Samson, you're up next.
I'm not done setting up.
Wow, that's impressive.
No, there's not really much.
It is
Impressive.
There I am. All right. Yeah. Wow. What a great film to finish off the Showa series that we all know and love. I mean, it's a really cool Godzilla suit. The evolution from 73 to 75, he just gets meaner and meaner looking. And by this film, he is probably one of the most menacing Showa Godzillas that's out there. To me, I think it goes original 64, 72, 74, and then 75. Like it gets meaner and meaner, and those are the most menacing looking ones. And all the special effects that went into this movie. Yeah, like you said, there's that crazy scene where you actually see the entire set when Mechagodzilla shoots his revolving missiles. The whole damn set moves like 20 feet away. I guess that was the only time they could cut that scene, because otherwise they'd have been like, hey, yeah, that defied the laws of physics. We need to do that again. Because, I mean, obviously that doesn't look right. The whole world just shifting a good like 5 miles, if that were like real scale. But the special effects were great. The tag team battle this time, because previously it was 2 good guys versus 1 bad guy. This time we got 2 baddies, 1 goodie. So Godzilla really had a run for his money. But I feel like Mechagodzilla wasn't obviously as powerful this time around, because in the first film, he was able to take down. He was about to take down King Caesar and Godzilla single-handedly.
Yeah.
And this one, he didn't really do much. It was more of Titanosaurus that was doing the fighting. I mean, I guess Dr. Mifune, he's back there screaming, "Go Titanosaurus!" So that's why he's like doing. The Titanosaurus was getting more of the glory, and Mechagodzilla was just kind of standing there doofy and like, "Oh, there's a helicopter. Okay, cool. I did my part." But it was like, as we were saying, how the movies were getting more serious in the 70s. I feel like the plot of this and just the way that things went, this was probably the most serious out of the 4 70s films that we have. Yeah. Especially because this is the only one, as far as I know, if you see the actual Blu-ray or the Classic Media's Japanese cut, this is the only one that has nudity in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in the Japanese cut, Katsura is getting operated on, and there's Japanese plastic boobies on screen for a minute, and that's something you've never seen before, right. Which is why, yeah, this is not a child hobby. When people are like, "Oh, you're into Godzilla, you're such a child," they obviously, they obviously only ever saw Godzilla versus Megalon or Godzilla's Revenge, because those are kooky, crazy. No, these movies have great stories, great depth, great plot. Just, oh my god. So Titanosaurus is one of my top kaiju, as just an enemy kaiju. So I really love the film, and I felt like it was a good send off for the French, for the Showa series. And the music, the score of the film is brilliant. I love the Terror of Mechagodzilla theme. Just the score behind it is something that I put in and just like listen to on a loop all the time. And it has one of the greatest appearances of Godzilla that I've ever seen. Like the music rumbling up and him charging in to save the day. I love it. Oh, and collectibles. I got quite a few here. I'm gonna say that I got to get it properly painted because I bought it pre-painted. It's a little sloppy, but the Billiken 30 centimeter, it's probably my favorite looking Godzilla 1975 that I've ever seen. They kind of David Dopko did a customization job on mine. I accidentally flubbed up on it because I tried to do a boiling water trick on it to try to get his mouth to droop a little bit more because, you know, he has like a droopy. And I accidentally, when I did that, the putty that he used to make the figure, it broke off of it. So that's why I flubbed. I apologized heavily to David over and over and over again, so he knows that I'm sorry and all is forgiven. But yeah, they kind of dropped the ball with the 25 centimeter one. And I don't have the 30 centimeter. I wish I did because I actually think it would pair up pretty great with these two. And it does, right? Everybody, Leslie, you have it, obviously, right?
It does. It does pair up with the Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus, and it does look great. I've heard some folks say they're not really truly satisfied with it, that they have not made a great 75. Now, I will admit this is not the perfect 75, but it comes close. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But considering what we got, I don't think it's half bad. My only issue with it is like he's kind of like too big. As you can see here, he stands toe-to-toe with Mechagodzilla. It's not how it was in the film. Honestly, Mechagodzilla should be like a little bit like this in comparison. But that's like a small little nitpick. Like some folks I've heard recently saying the reason why they're not going for the Sakai pieces is because they come with tail stands. And I'm just sitting there trying not to say anything derogatory on Facebook. But it's a small little nitpick. But then again, they still look great together, especially when you put Titanosaurus into the mix. But I said it's a solid 75. I say out of 100%, it's probably a good 80. But I understand for some folks that's not good enough. I understand that may not be good enough for them. But you know, we got one in the 25, which is, you know, kind of not the best. And this is an improvement over 25.
I think the Billiken is perfect because I'm not even
yeah, you're right. The Billiken is perfect.
Because if you hold the Billiken, I have him at feet level right here. If you hold them, Godzilla's nose is pointed at like the middle of Mechagodzilla's neck. So I think that this is the right scale that we were talking about.
Yeah, Billiken. Billiken is the best. The 75X plus 30 centimeter, like I said, it's okay. It could have been better in a few areas, but it's nowhere near as like questionable as the 25. But you know, we still got a favorite sculptors line. They could probably make one at some point, you know, whatever. I don't know if Sakai ever made a 75. Maybe he did. I'm not really sure. So we still got that if they choose to go in that direction. But they're done with that movie, both 25 and 30 centimeter scales. But only time will tell.
So favorite is the Billiken here that I'm going to get repainted because this was pre-painted by somebody else and they did a sloppy job on it. And then honestly, the Parababy Titanosaurus right here, even though it's pinker than hell, it's still it's a really cool sculpt. It stands out on my shelf, and I love that its little quote unquote Rick piece, as I like to kind of call it, the Parababy Rick piece, is the little submarine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, that's me on Terra Mechagodzilla and my favorite figures.
All right, Jeremy, you up next.
Yeah, so with the 75 film, I really love the overall plot and tone of the film. I think one of my favorite aspects of it is the duality between Titanosaurus and the girl, as they can communicate with one another. I think that's a really cool aspect to it. I thought maybe that the aliens from the first film would have matched a little bit better in there, but I did enjoy their cameo with the Mechagodzilla hats. I thought that was pretty neat. I'd say one of my favorite collectibles is an original poster that I own of the film for the 1975. The artwork on there is pretty amazing. And I have to say that's probably my favorite collectible.
Wow.
Cool. I'm going to be brief with mine. And after I'm done with my commentary, whatever, I got 3 questions from Alan Hollowell that I mentioned earlier. That we'll do a rapid fire, answer those questions, and then we'll be done, ladies and gentlemen. But Terra Mecha Godzilla, what a great way to end the series. Even though it wasn't the original plan to end the series on this film, they tried to do some things after this, but by default, Terra Mecha Godzilla earned the designation of being the last film of the Showa series. And with everything that happened in the Showa series, with Godzilla first appearing in 54 and attacking Tokyo, him fighting Kong, him going to outer space, him having a son, him these incredible things he done throughout the Showa series. You have to have a movie, at least if that series is going to end, that is of everything that happened prior. And Terra Mecha Godzilla is just that. I just think that it's a film that, even though it wasn't intended to be the final film, I think it's very poetic that it was, because of Inoshiro Honda coming back after 7 years, because the last film he did was Destroy All Monsters, and he had no interest in coming back because, from what I understand, he wasn't. Yeah, that's right. My fault. Godzilla's Revenge. But Inoshiro Honda was not really a big fan of Godzilla being turned into this goofy superhero, so he really didn't want to have any part of it. But the fact he was convinced to come back for this film is amazing. Akira Ifukube came back for this film. Of course, they used his music in Gigan, but it was all stock footage. I don't think he made any originally in any for that film. Last time we saw that was Destroy All Monsters, and of course, you had the guy who killed the original Godzilla in 54. Akihiko Harada. Now he plays another damaged scientist character in this film. You now have another tragic character in this film that actually commits suicide for the greater good, like Serizawa did in 54. So you have great correlations and common denominators between 75 and the original 54 film. And I've always said this film is so great because it's a culmination of everything that happened in the Showa series. And once again, it was a great way to end the series on a high note, with Godzilla going out in the blaze of glory, with going up against 2 more powerful and bigger opponents than him, and he was able to prevail, by hook or crook. And of course, it's sad. It's sad when you see him go away at the end, and him disappearing, and whatever, because it's the final film of the Showa series. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but that moment when he roars and he goes off into the sunset. Every time I watch that scene, it's like, for some reason, I get random images of past great Godzilla moments in the Showa series. And it could be just anything. It could be, like I said, him attacking Tokyo in 54, him busting out the iceberg in 62, him rising up out the dirt in 64, him fighting Ebra, or, I just have these random images of the Showa series come to mind. And it's just very poetic, in my opinion, that last scene, but it's such a great film. Like I said, with the 70s films, it went towards a more silly route, but they did try to bring it back in a more darker, serious tone with this film. And I think it worked. And, it just showed that, Godzilla wasn't always this goofy, silly character. They're able to make thought-provoking, serious films, especially at a time like this when they were not too serious, to bring it back. Inoshiro Honda was the one to really bring it back. Say what you will about Jun Fukuda. He was a great director, but he directed more so fun films, with Sea Monster, Son of Godzilla, Gigan, Megalon. Once again, like I said earlier, like, it took me seeing Godzilla as a goofy superhero for me to become a fan. I think it took Terra Mecha Godzilla being a dark, serious story for the Showa series to leave out on a good note. So that's my whole thought on Terra Mecha Godzilla. Great film. It was an amazing film. Now, my favorite collectible from the film is actually the 30 centimeter Mecha Godzilla 75 with the Rick with the brain and the light up eyes. This is my absolute favorite. Love it. So,
does your light up feature on yours still work?
Yes. What happened to Rich didn't happen to me. Knock on wood. So
I've seen that happen to a few people.
Yeah, it has. That's why I don't really mess with it. I don't really mess with mine that much. Only time I mess with it is like if I take pictures of it, and that happens very few, far in between. Because honestly, the head, it's like a chore just to take the head off to put in the other head. So I barely mess with it because I don't want to mess it up. Because I know
This one comes off pretty.
Yeah, but see, mine for some reason has an issue of not coming off so easily, and I don't want to take a chance of damaging it. I know once it's damaged, I can't send it back, so I barely mess with it. So,
but no, I did the same thing. It's like I got the figure, I plugged it in, turned it on, took a picture, unplugged it, threw that fucking battery pack away. It was like, I'm not doing that ever again. Mine lit up, it worked, it looked cool. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, and I feel the same way.
Broke his because he had his on for 35 seconds. I was like, all right, 1, 2, 3, go. Turn it on. Take a pic. Turn it off. Done.
Me too. That's why I don't mess with mine. So as you can see, he's intact. And honestly, I didn't really like the brain apparatus in the film anyway. I really didn't like that look because it didn't really do anything. Even one thing, if it like turned the tide against Godzilla, but it didn't really do anything because he got destroyed to like a scene later. But it's nice to have. I always say it's better to have it, not need it, versus need it, not have it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it with the stream. But before we do end, rapid fire questions. 3 questions from Alan Hollowell.
Wait, that was one collectible. What's your other favorite collectible?
Oh, from this film, probably Titanosaurus. But his goofy ass is way across the room. I don't feel like getting him.
25 or 30?
Huh?
25 or 30 centimeter?
Oh, I actually like the 30 better. Even though I love the 25, and I think it's more suit accurate, especially how he looked that night, but I love the 30 better. Light years better.
I agree.
So here's the first question. If you can, list your favorite 70s Godzilla films in order, or how you like them, from your least favorite to your most favorite. John, go for it.
Favorite to least favorite, or least favorite to favorite?
However you want to do it.
74, 75, 70, 72, 73. So,
And you broke up. What'd you say? 74 and what now?
74, 75, 72, 71, 73.
William, go for it.
I'm going to say Terror, Gigan, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Hedorah, then Megalon.
Samson.
All right, I'm going to go from favorite to least favorite. Favorite, Gigan. Duh, I've said that 20 times in the stream. So, Gigan, Mechagodzilla 1, Megalon, Terror of Mechagodzilla, and then least favorite is Hedorah.
Jeremy, go for it.
Favorite to least favorite, 74, 75, 71, 73, 72.
How dare you?
All right, mine is damn. Mine is most favorite. My most favorite to my least favorite. 72, 74, 70. No, shit. Nope. Yeah. Okay. 72, 74, 75, 71, and 73. All right. Next question. What is your favorite villain from the 70s? Go.
Oh, Mechagodzilla.
Which one?
74.
William.
Gigan from Godzilla versus Gigan.
Samson.
The kid from Godzilla versus Megalon.
You daggone right, he was a villain.
Obviously, Gigan.
Jeremy.
For me, 74 Mechagodzilla.
I agree. 74 Mechagodzilla. And last question, what is your favorite X Plus figure from the 70s? You gotta pick one. You gotta pick one.
30 centimeter Mechagodzilla 74. That was my first X Plus figure.
Wow.
William?
30 centimeter Gigan. Gotta go with him. My first one as well.
Samson?
25 centimeter King Caesar.
Jeremy?
30 centimeter Mechagodzilla.
Which one? 74 or 75?
I think it was a 75. I don't think there is a 7430.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. Where the hell have you been at?
What the hell you been doing?
And mine is
co plus producer or whatever.
mine is
Oh, hold on. That's the one that was leaning really bad, right?
yes.
I remember it now. Yep, I don't have that.
Yeah, it came with a stand. Yeah.
Stand, yeah.
And this is mine. My favorite lunch is, of course, Mechagodzilla 1975. And ladies and gentlemen, we are done with this live stream. Once again, I want to thank every single one of my co-hosts here for being here on this discussion. Thank y'all so much. When I planned this 2 or 3 weeks ago, y'all, my co-hosts, y'all came aboard. You wanted to come in and have a good time, and thank y'all so much for doing that. Samson West, you've been, I won't say missing in action, but we haven't seen you that much in a while.
I really have. I've been absent.
But I just want to say thank you for coming back and coming back here, because we've all missed you. We all know that you got things that you got to do, but it's nice to know that you're still there. And once again, thank you for paving the way for all of us. You were the first ones I remember, on YouTube talking about these figures, talking about Godzilla at a time where Godzilla was not in the forefront in the mainstream public. So like I said, you inspired lots of great people. And I can honestly say without you, I probably would not even be here on YouTube. So thank you for doing what you have done, thus far.
Dude, it's a great honor. I'm glad that you asked me to join. I had such a great time. I'm glad that I guess I influenced a lot of you guys out there. I didn't know that I played such a heavy role in so many people's collecting capabilities, or like the reason why they do it stuff. But I mean, it's just it's a fantastic hobby, and I love to share it. I love to talk about it, and I promise I will be coming back. I have a new setup in my room, and I've been contemplating where to get started again. But I am coming back to YouTube. I am not gone.
Well, thank you for coming back on this show, and I really do appreciate it. And of course, John
Thank you
Ruffin,
for the invitation.
No problem. And of course, John Ruffin, I got your back, bro. I thank you so much for coming aboard. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And of course, William Fett from the Godzilla Files. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Anytime. It's always fun. So it's always enjoyable talking to everyone about Godzilla. So.
And Jeremy Souls, thank you so much for being here. Kind of. So, no, seriously, thank you so much. The brainchild behind Summit Kaiju. I've been down with Summit Kaiju since day one, and it's been a fun ride, obviously. But thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it too. Thanks.
And of course, subscribe to William Fett, the Godzilla Files. Go to mykaiju.com so you can see awesome work from John Ruffin and maybe get you a couple pieces of his merchandise catalog. Of course, subscribe to Samson West, the guy that pretty much started it all for everybody. And of course, Summit Kaiju, yes, by the great Jeremy Souls. Yes. I highly recommend everybody here. Please go and follow them, support them. They are highly passionate fans. And thank you so much for being part of this discussion. Now, if you're wondering what the next discussion is going to be, as a matter of fact, I got 2 discussions that got lined up coming up in September. The next discussion I got lined up is nothing but a strictly King Kong episode. We're talking nothing but King Kong films. We're talking nothing but King Kong collectibles. I'm gonna have Steve Serajoli here on the show, so we can talk about nothing but King Kong stuff in honor of Godzilla vs. Kong coming next year. And then the week after that, my wife and I, we're going to Denver. We're going to spend some time with Jeremy and his family. And we're going to have another live stream that weekend. And that live stream, whose side you're on? King Kong or Godzilla? We're going to have a live stream devoted to King Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong. So half the panel is going to be pro-Godzilla. The other half is going to be pro-Kong. So pick your side on who you're going to go for come next year. I know I've been highly vocal that Kong is going to pull it out, but we got a lot of Godzilla fans out there, obviously. So Look for those 2 live streams to come up really, really, really soon. Kong, nothing but Kong, and the next one after that, Godzilla vs. Kong episode directly after that. So once again, thank you to William, thank you to Jeremy, thank you to Samson, and thank you to John. Appreciate it. Also, thank you for everybody in the chat. We really do appreciate it. And as I always end my videos, I'm gonna end it with this. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again on next Figure Move review. All right, y'all take it easy.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye.
Well.